I would just really recommend actually looking through the courses that you're applying to.
Going into the application process and going into the first day of uni and then every lecture after, it's just really have an open mind.
There are very different splits on PIR, very different splits on PPE, very different amounts of modules you can choose.
Even if you think you know something, you don't.
And it doesn't matter if you're applying for slightly different courses at every uni, as long as, you have a through line.
Hello and welcome to Coursecast. Today I'm joined by Ash and Lyla, two politics and international relations students. Ash is studying at Bath and Lyla is studying at UCL. Today we're going to study what the course is about, why they both decided to do the course. We're going to talk about admissions advice, all that good stuff. So if you're interested, like and subscribe, follow, whatever, and hope you enjoy the episode. So to get going, guys, I'm interested to know why you picked the degree in the first place. So Ash, if you want to go first and kind of explain the thinking behind picking politics and international relations at Bath.
Yeah, so I've always been interested in politics. I believe my first insight to politics was during the Brexit referendum. So that's kind of since then I've just been interested about how the world works. It sounds really cliche, but yeah. And in sixth form, I did politics as one of my A-level choices. And I was originally going to do an English degree with politics as like a minor, but it kind of got to the end of year 12 and it was like, this is just getting so interesting. So I've completely changed up my personal statement and applied to both. Yeah.
Awesome. And how similar was it to your politics A-level? Because I know some degrees are quite different. I don't know if that's the case with politics.
Yeah. At the moment, is a lot of overlap. Like, mostly I think it's just recap for people who haven't done politics A level, and especially because we're doing international relations. We have a lot of international students, so they probably won't know so much about British politics. So especially in my British modules, they are more focused on the basics that we learn in A levels.
Cool. And we'll talk about like course structure and stuff a bit later on so people can understand a bit more about what you're getting at there. And then Lyla, so similar reasoning for you. Was there another course that you had in mind, or was it always going to be politics?
Yeah, so I went through a really weird path to find PIR. So originally when I first started looking at uni choices, I was really interested in international relations very, very specifically. Then I went to a talk at Oxford and I realised PPE might be kind of the thing for me, because it was really like flexible and interdisciplinary. So I applied for PPE at every other university, but when I went to the PPE talk at UCL, I just happened to not like the PPE course there for whatever reason. Loved the PIR course because it had that flexibility and the interdisciplinary nature. Applied there, and then it ended up just being the university I went to.
And was that because you thought it was the best, or did you not get in, or what was the deal?
So I got an interview for Oxford and then I was rejected after that.
Yeah, fair enough, yeah.
And then I also had applied to Durham, King's and Manchester for PPE. I went to a few off holidays and just decided that the PPE courses at those unis specifically weren't for me. And I loved UCL PIR so much that I don't know. That's just what I ended up doing. And I was in London.
It's great that it worked out for you. Yeah, yeah, for sure. And was there anything specific that like drew you to politics and international relations as opposed to doing the kind of broader PPE? Is it just that like you're really, really, really into politics and the other things were kind of more peripheral interests, or was there another reason?
Yeah, so with PIR at UCL, we'll probably talk about it later, but you have quite a lot of flexibility in the course. You can work in the philosophy and economics elements without doing PPE, and the PPE course at UCL is quite like data science heavy and doesn't have as much flexibility, so it just wasn't something I was interested in.
Okay, great. And that brings us very nicely onto what you actually study, because I think politics and international relations, it's like, I wouldn't know what that is, and I'm at university doing a degree that involves politics at least. So what is it? First, we'll talk to Lyla. What is it that you're studying day to day? And maybe what's been your favorite module so far?
Yeah, so our course is like kind of a mix of political science and political theory, and then they merge into one, and then you get like I guess, the actualities of it as well. So my modules for this past term, to give you some context, were democracy and authoritarianism, which is like comparative politics, basically,
Cool.
foundations of political thought. And then we had 2 like hot topics which we chose. So mine were extremism and populism and economic inequality and democracy. So those really helped us, get real world examples and built on the political science and political theory that we developed earlier.
And so is the hot topics like your international relations thing to an extent, and then you have the politics separately, or have you not done any international relations yet?
So it's not really explicitly divided. We
Okay.
do have conflict and cooperation next term, which is like the equivalent of democracy and authoritarianism for
Mm.
international relations. But we haven't explicitly done it yet. I won't lie
Yeah,
to
okay, cool.
you.
That's fine. I'm just interested. And then Ash, yeah, is that similar at Bath? Are there any like big differences that we should know about?
Yeah, I would say that my course, it's more, I think it should be renamed to International Relations with Politics.
Okay.
Mine is definitely more from the international relations and even the political concepts and political theory modules that we do, they are from like a viewpoint of how does this relate to like the theories that we learn in international relations. So I have one like core international relations module, and then most of the others it's either on Britain or general political theory. But even the Britain module, that is so focused on how Britain fits into a global sphere. It's yeah, so it's definitely from more of an international point of view, which I think is really interesting. I think that's one of the reasons why I chose Bath, because it was different to any other unis I put on my 5 choices. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, and I suppose it's nice to have that sort of a bit more applied examples, because I certainly find sometimes political theory especially could be quite abstract, and so it could be quite nice to really always have something to reference back to. Have you had like a favorite theory or something that you've learned so far? Obviously you've just had your first term, so it's not like you've done the whole course yet, but any standouts? That's for Ash, by the way.
Yeah, I would say that my favorite that I've learned about so far is anarchy, just because
Okay.
I touched up on it a bit in A levels, but again, it was like not nearly through as international view as this, and it's I think it really starts to answer some questions about why people in leadership roles do the things that they do,
Huh.
especially related to kind of global institutions like NATO and like the World Health Organization. It kind of, I think how people view anarchy definitely shapes the way that they interact with more like world governments. It's been
Okay.
really interesting.
So what do you mean by anarchy here? Because when I think of anarchy, it's just like chaos. I'm interested. Can you
Yeah.
explain like a little bit more
So
about what you're talking about?
through it, like through an international relations point of view, anarchy is more the idea that there is no one leader in the world. So everyone's kind of, so it poses the question about whether people actually can do whatever they want. It is kind of discusses about free will, but in
Mm.
the terms of government. And it's because we don't have, even though we have these institutions like the United Nations and NATO, we still don't have like one government that everyone is involved in. So how do we tackle big international problems?
Yeah, that sounds super interesting. I kind of wish I was there for some of those lectures. I can't lie. Anyway, yeah, Lyla, I'm interested. You mentioned about your like data statistics analytics thing, that you're doing in your degree. How does that fit in? Is that a separate module, or is that kind of integrated into all of the learning that you're doing?
Yeah, so it's a mix. So we have upcoming modules which will specifically target, the data analysis, but it's been worked into a lot of the modules so far. So, for example, for democracy and authoritarianism, we had a project where we had to look at, different measures of democracy. So you can look at like VDEM and, other scores. And that was something I was particularly interested in. I even wrote about it in my personal statement. So that was really interesting. And
Cool.
then we also did a manifesto analysis, which Tim actually saw me doing when I came to visit Oxford.
Yeah.
But we basically had to like code data, like code a manifesto for different things. So it is used throughout our degree.
That's really cool, and I like that you get kind of different assessment methods. I was reading on the UCL website about all of it, and I was thinking I just have to sit and write for like 3 hours, but you get so many cool cool
Ooh.
different ways to get assessed. So obviously you've got your policy analysis. What else is there? Like what other I don't know, what other more interesting ways do like what more interesting work do you do at UCL, I guess?
Yeah, so they've started this relatively new assessment style called doing a Viva, which basically consists of sitting down for half an hour with like your professor, and they'll ask you questions about the course or about a piece of work that you've created, which is really terrifying, I'm not going to lie, but it is actually quite useful in developing like public speaking skills. It gets you actually talking about what you're doing rather than just, sitting down and writing an essay. It's meant to also take less time than sitting down writing an essay, but obviously, like, it's quite fear-inducing, so you do end up prepping quite a lot.
Yeah, I was going to ask, how do you revise for that? Like, do they tell you what they're going to ask you beforehand, or is it
No,
just you just have to
no.
take on the fly?
You have to, like, kind of
Okay.
guess. And then they ask for, like, a written piece of work, usually beforehand. And sometimes it's based off that, sometimes it goes a bit rogue. I just had one the other week, and that was a partner one as well. So slightly less intimidating. And then we also have policy briefs as well, or portfolios. So for one of the hot topic modules, people were required to submit, like, they would write something every week and compile it into one big portfolio of their work for the module, and that was what they were submitted and graded on.
Cool. So you've got a nice little variety there.
Yeah.
Ash, is it similar at Bath, or like are you a bit more dull?
Yeah, we're a bit more traditional in our assessments. We also do portfolios, but it's quite different this year to how it seems to be in the following years, because year one at Bath is it's 0% of your degree. So next year will be 32, and then final year will be 68%. So it's really, this year is about kind of getting things wrong and like learning how to do them better. We All of my modules, it's graded, but as long as you pass the assessment, you don't have to. You've passed the module, and this, which kind of means that the assessments are more on being more confident in the way you speak politically and the way you write politically. So we have a lot of group presentations and essays, but yeah, so kind of less interesting this year than it will be in the next couple of years.
But I think that's nice because it means you can kind of get a bit comfortable with it and not feel like you can't experiment because you're worried about messing up.
Yeah,
Yeah, and I mean, I've personally appreciated that as well. I mean, for me, I just have to pass the exams at the end of this year, and so it means I can have a podcast and not worry about. Well, it's not that I'm not working; it's just I'm working a little bit less hard than I might otherwise be. So you mentioned about sort of the structure in year 2 and 3 in terms of assessments. Is there anything else? I'm thinking maybe your year abroad, because I know that's a big thing at Bath. If that's something that's something you're doing, if so, why? If not, why not? And anything else that like really sets the next few years apart at Bath?
yeah. I'm doing, my official course title, I think, is Politics with International Relations, including a placement year or a study abroad year. It's a long title that I have to write every time I do a piece of coursework. So, but it's kind of the thing that drew me to Bath. It's very yeah, they have great facilities here for to people to get involved in anything you can imagine. We're already starting to have meetings about it. We started having meetings with our academic advisors about study abroad or placements within the first month. So it's really getting into the habit of like looking at what's available to you, and it's great. They have like a whole module full of places that you can do placements or study abroad. I know that they have so many links with different companies and stuff, but it's not, if you don't want to go into just politics or just international relations, there's a lot of different stuff that you can do politics adjacent. So yeah, I don't really particularly want to go directly into politics, so I was kind of scared that I would have to be like doing my year placement in the House of Commons or something, but I can already see that that's not something that I have to do.
So what options are you looking at for it?
So I'm really interested in international law. So I've already started looking at some like law firms to see if they will um they're connected with Bath, and they specialize in a lot of different types of like human rights and international law placements that I'm looking into. So and it's even more cool that Bath does this because they don't necessarily do a law degree. They don't offer law as the undergraduate course here, but the fact that they still like give you the options to do all of this stuff, I think that's makes it cool.
And so would you be looking to do a law conversion afterwards?
Yeah, quite possibly. Yeah.
Nice one. And then Lyla, I looked on the UCL website. They mentioned years abroad. I don't get the impression it's such a big thing. Is that something you're looking into, or are you just there to get your politics and international relations degree and then do your own thing?
So we do have years abroad. It's mainly something you apply for in second year. So they do have like talks about it, but I don't really know many people in first year who've been going to those talks. Like at Bath, you mentioned about how like you have modules in it. We don't really have any of that, but the places are available. They're all shown on the UCL website. I think that was something I looked at when I was considering what uni to go to.
Yeah, cool, great. Now we've kind of talked about the sort of the general stuff that you're studying and some of the really, well, I found quite interesting specifics. I want to know now what your kind of day-to-day life looks like, because it's all very well and good hearing about all these lovely, interesting ideas, but when, like, how much time are you spending in the library, slogging it out over your essays and whatever? How much contact hours do you have? That kind of thing. Lyla, do you want to go first? Just talk me through like a typical week.
Yeah, so I have 8 contact hours a week. So that's a lecture and a seminar for each module pretty much. And they're usually on the same day. So like on Mondays, I would have, well, not Mondays actually, but on like Thursdays, I have all my economic inequality stuff. And then on Fridays, I have all my extremism and populism stuff. And then sometimes it's like switched over a bit, but nothing particularly major. So I'm in uni for about 2 hours a day, apart from Wednesdays. I don't know. I think this is quite similar at most unis. Most people get Wednesdays off. Reading, we don't get too much. I would say about maybe like 50 pages per module a week, sometimes less, sometimes
Okay.
more. It really depends. It's not as much as at other
Yeah,
unis. And then
sure.
we don't have like assessments until like the halfway and the end point pretty much. There's like the occasional thing where you'll have some coursework throughout, but it's not like at Oxford where you have like essays all the time. So those periods just before when essays are due, it's normally around reading week. Kind of intense. I spend quite a lot of time in the library during those, but it's really not that much in comparison. We do spend a lot of time socializing.
Okay, great. And I want to talk about that later, about what you're doing outside your degree. And it sounds like you're
Yep.
going to have loads of things you're doing outside of your degree. So that'd be a good, interesting segment. Yeah, so Ash, similar question for you. What does your week look like as an international relations student at Bath? Oh, politics and international relations student at Bath, I should say.
I'm not exactly sure how many contact hours we get exactly, but I have 4 modules this semester, and every module you have a lecture, a weekly lecture, and a weekly seminar. They range from about an hour to 2 hour lectures, and we normally the seminars are related to the readings that we get given. So we have one compulsory reading, which is normally anywhere. It can range from 20 pages a week to like 200, and we have to pick a section and discuss in groups. And then the lectures are more about the bigger picture and stuff. And then yeah, likewise, we don't have anything on Wednesday afternoons because it's reserved for sport. Our like assessment structure, we have coursework due throughout the year. It's not all piled on in one section. I had a couple of pieces due before Christmas. I have a couple of pieces due early January, and then no exams in January, unlike most of the other courses at Bath. And then in May, or April, May, I have like my main pieces of coursework and portfolio, and also 2 exams. So yeah, it's not too
Okay,
bad.
so it's quite nicely spaced out.
Mm,
Yeah, I guess that again means that you can maybe experiment a bit and not stress too much in the first
yeah.
year at least, which would be nice. Now, Lila, I just want to pick up on you mentioned hot topics.
Mhm.
Is that something that you have any say over, or is it just like UCL decides, oh, these things are important for people to know about this year, we're going to do hot topics on them? How does it work?
So they whittle it down to like a list of, I think it's under 10 for the year. And it's mainly based on like lecturer speciality and also just like what they think is relevant. So I'll try and give you like some examples of ones people I know doing. There's like refugees, climate change, political violence, revolution, and I do economic inequality and extremism and populism. So they're all like really interesting, and they basically just determine, these are particularly of interest at the moment, and it's just a way for you to like apply what you've been learning into practice for the most part. Yeah, I love them though. Genuinely
I
super
guess,
interesting.
yeah, that sounds great. And I guess that's a really nice example as well of the kind of flexibility that you were describing earlier.
Mm,
That kind of drew you to the course in the first place. So that's great
yeah,
that you get that even in the first year, because I know for a lot of
yeah.
universities, first year is very kind of restricted. Certainly
Hmm.
for me, I don't have any freedom in what I do. It's just like, this is what you're studying and you will
Yeah.
study it. But that's so cool that from the very start you get that kind of freedom. I'm just
Mhm.
interested, did you find it at all like intimidating or overwhelming, feeling like, oh, I need to pick the right one? Or was it very much just like, oh, these are all super interesting, I'll be happy with whatever I pick?
It's quite a casual process, I'm not going to lie. So they basically sent us all out a Google form before we even arrived here. They go, which ones do you want to do? And then you rank them in order. So I would have been happy with any of like my top 5. Like I wasn't particularly fussed about getting any of them. Um, but yeah, I mean, I guess it depends on who you are as a person if you really, really want something. But yeah.
Yeah, sure. So that's nice. I mean, they all sounded very interesting to me, and I'm sure if you're going to
Yes.
study politics and international relations, then hopefully at least a few of them uh, will appeal to you. Now, usually when I do these, I'm interviewing people from the same universities. But since you're from, one's from Bath, one's from UCL, I'm interested about sort of university life and how that might contrast. So I know Bath is very much a campus uni. Um, did that really factor into your decision making at all, Ash, or was it just like there's other things that I'm worried about?
Yeah, I had 2 conditions for my university choices. They had to be outside of London because I'm from London, don't want to stay
Yeah,
in London for another 3 years, and then also had to be campus uni. There are accommodation for first years in the city for University of Bath, but it's I love being on campus. I live right above the library. I can I need to go everywhere that I need to go in under 5 minutes. It's great. It just puts a load of stress off having to commute and stuff.
yeah. And is there anything you feel like you're missing out on? I mean, I personally I'm of a similar kind of disposition to you. I think that's great to have everything you
Yeah.
need on your doorstep. But do you feel like there's any downsides, or are you all for campus?
I'm 99% all full campus, but sometimes it's like 9 p.m. and you really want like a snack or a late night dinner and you can't go to the uni shop because it's already closed. But I know that my friends are having a great time in McDonald's or something. Like that's the only thing that's almost putting me off.
Okay, well, I think that's something that you could probably get
Yeah.
over, and by the sounds of it, you have. And then
Yeah.
Lila, at UCL, you have like a kind of a well, it sounded kind of weird. You have like multiple campuses, right?
Yeah.
Is that correct? How does that work? Like, are you just basically, is it like a campus uni for you in that you have everything relevant to you on one campus, or are you like traveling between them for your different modules or whatever?
Yeah, so there's the main like Bloomsbury campus, and that's where most of UCL is. Like if you think of UCL, you're probably thinking of the Bloomsbury campus. And then there's also UCL East, but that's like it has a different type of degree. I think they have quite a lot of STEM degrees. Correct me if I'm wrong on that. But So they're all the way out in Stratford, which is about like half an hour on the tube on the Elizabeth line. So kind of a trek. I know some people who did actually get put in UCL East for their accommodation, even though they were at Bloomsbury campus. Yeah. But aside from that, for the most part, everyone's like kind of central around campus. So I think all accommodations are within like a 20-minute commute, which isn't far at all. Obviously, people start to move out in second year, but everything's relatively central. I think campus is like, it's kind of just like in Bloomsbury, like random buildings dotted around, but you can walk across in like 10-15 minutes.
Yeah, okay. So it's basically you're getting the campus experience,
Mhm.
but somebody might have an unpleasantly long commute for their accommodation if they get unlucky.
Yes. It's really
Cool.
unlucky though. That's not most people I know.
Yeah, great. And then Ash, you said like you didn't want to study in London because you wanted to get out of London. How have you found that transition from being like one of the biggest cities in Europe to, I mean, Bath's not tiny, but it's definitely not London, you know?
There are some aspects that I love about it. Bath is, it's quickly become my favorite city. I think maybe even including London in that, because I love a walkable city. I just got back from the holidays and it's taken me like 2 hours to get from my end of London to central London, and it's too long. I could walk the entirety of Bath in under 2 hours, which it is. It's just it's lovely and it's so beautiful. And there are some things that I miss about London, especially doing a politics degree. It's very central, and I always read on the headlines and things about being in London, but it's not too bad. We still have great connections to Bristol and some big and like even the Welsh government and stuff. We get a lot of people coming in from there. Yeah, sometimes.
Cool. So you don't feel like you're super isolated or anything, or like you're missing out on all the action. That's good. Uh, great. So a final question for you about kind of, I don't know, the practicalities of your actual degree, and then we're going to move on to talking about like uni life and applications. I'm asking everyone this at the minute. What's AI like for you in your degree? How useful are you finding it? Are there any warnings you'd say for potential students about how they shouldn't use it? And what's the university's attitude to it? So, Ash, if you want to go first, and if you forget any of the questions I've asked you, that's fine. I know I asked like 3 in a row, and that's bad, but
Um, we're starting with our uni's attitude to it. It's we have three different levels of the use of generative AI in our assessments. We type A is none is permitted at all. If you are caught using anything, that is an automatic 0, I believe. And then type B is you can use it for planning and some element of research. And then type C is you can use it as much or as little as you want. I personally, a lot of my assessments are type B. I would love to be one of those people who can't use ChatGPT and doesn't, but it is really useful. If we ignore some of the environmental complications of it, I think that it is a really useful tool for research and to just if you need something summarizing, it's a great tool for that. And even if you don't know like the definition of word, it can put it in context for you. It yeah, I think that something that needs to happen for students though is just to not slip into the pattern of using it all the time. Because then you'll get one assessment that will be type A and you're not allowed to use it at all, and you are really stumped. So yeah, that's my thing.
so it's great, but with like a caution on it.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's good that Bath's giving quite clear guidance as well, kind of being clear on what they're happy with and when. Because I bet that's, I mean, I don't know, obviously that may have been your experience the entire time, but I can imagine if there was no like, if they didn't actually tell you what you could use and when, it would be kind of confusing, and then people might push it a bit too far. But yeah, anyway, and then how's your experience been, Lyla? Similar, or are there any sort of key differences?
We've got kind of a similar thing where it does depend on the module convener as to like how they want you to use AI. And they're very like aware of it. They've mentioned it in quite a lot of our lectures. Like it's not something that I think lots of people just brush it under the rug, pretend it isn't happening. But UCL are, very aware of it. I know quite a lot of people who do use it, especially international students who might struggle with some of the more like complex things, because I know people who are struggling with it in their own language, and if it's in a different language, then that makes it even more hard. But I haven't found it to be all that good for like readings, especially. It misses out loads of key information. And research, it does tend to like hallucinate things. That's something our lecturers have told us to be aware of. It's quite good if you want to like, I guess, synthesize your thoughts. Like if you just use it as a chatbot to chat back and forth about your ideas. Me and my friend use it to generate some practice questions for our Viva exam. But I haven't found it to be all that useful, and it's not very good at writing your essays either, if that's what you were wanting to do.
Okay, cool. That's interesting to get a different take on it. Right, great. So now I want to ask you about what you're doing when you're not slaving away in the library or whatever. So Ash, what are you kind of filling your time with in Bath? What maybe new things have you taken up, or kind of old hobbies are you now really enjoying?
So Bath is really famous for its sports. It's the #1 sports university this year. So pretty much everything is related around the sports schedule. It's got some really good like casual sport societies, which is great. I really like watching sport, but I don't really play it. So I thought I'd be in the deep end when I came, but you know, I've connected with a lot of different sports teams to just enjoy sport casually, which has been great. And I've also got into the media society, which is a great way of kind of applying political knowledge to this like societies, I guess. A lot of the stuff that I interact with is the magazine, which I write for like political tidbits in it and commissions, and then also just started a radio show on University
Awesome.
Radio Bar. Yeah, about Formula One. So there, and I've just helped launch the Bath University Green Party Society as well, which is another great way of getting into politics. Yeah,
Cool. So you've been pretty busy by the sounds of things. And
yeah.
if it's all right with you, I'll put a link to your radio show and stuff
Oh,
in the comments, because I know loads of people who've got into broadcasting at uni, and I think it is quite a cool and fun thing to do. Do you just do it yourself, or do you have guests? Yeah.
yeah, it's me and my friend, my course mate, who also does politics and international relations. We just talk about stuff that's happened in F1 recently. So yeah, it's quite casual, and we often get things wrong, but excited to, yeah.
Cool. That sounds great. And then Lyla, what are you up to at UCL that's not your degree?
Yeah, so I'll be completely honest, I haven't joined many societies. I was really nervous about getting like really overwhelmed as soon as I started uni, so I gave myself the first term to settle in. And then, I've got some ideas about what I'm going to join next term, but I can't speak for any of them. Um, Me and my friends do a lot of random things that it's just like, it's impossible to actually say what I do. You know, when you like rack your brain and you're like, what do we do? We cook a lot, I guess, because it's way cheaper. And then we like go and explore new places. And I don't know, this is so weird, but on TikTok or like social media, you'll just see all these random pop-ups. And they're obviously all happening in London, and you can just go to a random pop-up and get a bunch of free stuff. So yeah.
That's great. Yeah, I guess being in London enables side questing a bit more maybe than it might happen
Yes,
in Bath.
many side quests.
Yeah, and I guess that's great as well, to be able to kind of explore just random things, because you doesn't have to be, oh, I'm going to join the finance society and be president in 6 months and like, like that. And I think there's obviously, that's one way of doing things, but equally you could grow as a person without doing it in some like really sort of structured way, I guess. So that's nice that you've has there been a best side quest or best meal you've cooked while at UCL?
Ooh, I'm trying to think. I went the other week to a cat cafe all the way out in West London, and I got to go see some kittens for an afternoon,
Oh,
so that
that's
was quite
cute.
fun. And
Lovely.
then we just like looked around all the Christmas decorations and window shopped in Westfield because no money, because we're at uni.
Yeah, fair enough. That sounds great. Cool. So now hopefully, if people are still here, it's been 40 minutes or so, they might want to do your course. So it's time for some application advice, I think. What sort of advice would you give to people? Let's go Ash first, in terms of preparing for a good, strong application for Bath, and what was your process as well? What books did you read, that kind of thing?
Yeah, I wrote down a really out-of-pocket tip, and I think this actually really helped me to kind of conceptualize the degree more. I think people, you should like research as much as possible and learn as much as possible into one country that's not your own country, how, how their democracy is built, what electoral systems they use, all the institutions and structures of politics that they have, and then do absolutely everything. Compare everything to either, the UK or your native country. And I think that just getting into that critical comparative mindset whilst also learning about how another country operates is great. I did it with Germany in over the summer, and I actually had the honor to go. Well, I went on holiday to Berlin and went to see the Reichstag and all the German
Awesome.
parliament buildings, and it was just an amazing application of what I'd been doing for the last couple of months. So I think that's like a weird thing that really helped me conceptualize it. But just read around the course. It's so cliche, but it works.
And are there any books in particular that you'd recommend? I mean, maybe for somebody who's like also going to be interested in Germany, or just about the course in general.
The best book that I read during A levels, and it's on the the reading list for the International Baccalaureate course. I believe it's just called Introduction to Political Philosophy by Andrew Haywood. I wrote about it in my personal statement. It's got everything that you need, from key thinkers to philosophers, and it's got all the definitions of stuff and all of the comparisons between them. It's like the politics handbook. It's great.
Yes, you get like a great overview before you even do the degree,
Yeah.
kind of thing. I suppose that could be a good way for people to kind of work out if they find it interesting as well. Because if they read the book and think, "Oh, this is rubbish,"
Yeah.
and they just read a summary of the Bath Politics and International Relations degree, then it might be a sign that maybe it's not for them.
Yeah.
Great. Okay, so that sounds like quite a good useful book. And then how did that sort of play into writing your personal statement? Was it literally just like, okay, I know all about Germany and I've read this great summary book, blurt that out, or was there anything else that you added into the personal statement?
Well, in my A-level course, we did different political theories and learned about the philosophers behind them. And it was really interesting to we had like the basic understanding, but through this book, I was able to like take that further. So I could actually understand the differences in how they thought compared to like other people. So if we were looking at liberalism, you on the A-level specification, it could be, think about how John Locke or like John Stuart Mill or John Locke or someone, and then but then on my personal statement, I was able to be like they actually thought the exact same thing, but this is why. So it was kind of yeah, it just made sure that I could take it further.
Yeah, so the book really develops your understanding of what you were doing in politics A
Yeah.
level. I suppose that comes across really well in your personal statement as well, because you can kind of show that you're going beyond your A levels and having like a deeper level of understanding than somebody who just done A level politics. Great. So then, Lyla, similar kind of questions for you. What was the process for writing your personal statement? I guess having done it for PPE might be a bit different. How did that work? How did you make it like tailor it so it would work for PPE and PIR? What was that process like?
Yeah, so it was really hard writing my personal statement because I asked both UCL and Durham what they wanted to see from a personal statement, and they both said, "We want to know why you want our course specifically." And I thought, oh, they're completely different courses. But basically what I did was I did the, kind of traditional PPE personal statement where you do a paragraph on philosophy, politics, and economics. And then I did another paragraph on like my own personal understanding, but I just made sure everything was really clearly linked back to politics. So my philosophy paragraph, I think I did on moral philosophy, made sure it was linked back to politics and political discussions at the end. Same for economics. I made sure it was linked back to what governments can do for politics. And I made sure it was kind of focused around politics. And because the UCL course does have that flexibility and, interdisciplinariness, it was somewhat okay to merge them together, because I basically had like a sentence at the end saying, oh, like, I hope to study how all of these can merge together and, shape the political landscape. So I guess I just merged the two. And realistically, when you're applying for multiple courses, there should be some kind of a through link. Otherwise, you might need to rethink about what you actually want to do and where your real passions lie. So it's just important that you find that through link, I guess.
Cool. So you kind of just use a little semantic trick to get everything to fit together.
Basically.
I mean, if that works, it works, right?
Yeah.
And were there any books that like stood out to you as really like worthwhile reads for that personal statement writing process?
Yeah. So I, at A level, did politics, Spanish, and maths. So I didn't have like any economics basis apart from maths, really. So that was kind of important for me to learn about. And I read this really good book called Talking to My Daughter. It's a brief history on capitalism, I think it is. It's really interesting. And he basically explains loads of big like economics things that you just hear loads of people talking about in very, very simple terms. And he uses analogies to explain it all. So I thought that was really good for like my basic understanding. And then I would also really recommend looking at lectures, because they can get some really like specific things you might want to know about. UCL does really good lectures. They publish them on Spotify, I think, as like podcasts. So that might be interesting for people.
Great. So that's something to listen to after whoever's watching finishes watching this, they can go and check out a UCL lecture. And
yeah.
did the reading that economics book, did it help you in terms of now doing your PIR? Is that still kind of relevant to you?
Yeah, it's very relevant. So obviously I've chosen an economic hot topic module, but then next time we also do public sector economics, and then you can pick loads of political economy modules throughout the next 2 years of your degree. So I found it really interesting. And it's also like, the reason PP is a thing is because all of these different elements do actually play together into one. So like, you shouldn't discredit it just because you don't want to study economics doesn't mean that you shouldn't have a basic understanding of it to study politics.
Great. So that's kind of helped you out quite a lot then.
Yeah, definitely.
So is there anything else either of you want to add in terms of application advice? If not, we'll move on from it. Okay. No worries. That's it. No, you got something to say. Sorry. Yeah, go on.
I would just really recommend actually looking through the courses that you're applying to, because especially politics and international relations courses and PPE and politics and just all of those kinds of things, the course structures are actually really, really different. So both of us do a BSc, I'm pretty sure, but like, there are Bachelors of Arts courses. There are very different splits on PIR, very different splits on PPE, very different amounts of modules you can choose. And I mean, you can see between us how like even our courses are so different. So just actually read up on the courses that you want to study. And it doesn't matter if you're applying for slightly different courses at every uni, as long as, you have a through line.
Did you spend a long time researching different courses then? By the sounds of things?
I was so sure about my 5 options by the end of it that I was like, I don't know what to do if I don't get in, because I can't imagine anywhere else I would do. I considered so many things, and I'm obviously really grateful of where that led me. But I do know a lot of people who have ended up like doing a course and they're like, oh, this is not what I expected at all. So like, definitely go to those open days, research online, listen to podcasts like this, so you can actually work out what your course is about.
Great. Yeah, thanks for the little plug there as well.
Of course.
Cool. So I guess we're coming to the end a little bit. Firstly, we had quite a profound listener question, and I forgot to warn you about this before, Lyla. I mentioned it to Ash. Someone on TikTok asked us. Hold on, let me just get it up.
Oh.
Not the TikTok. I just got it copied down. So how can somebody tell the difference between genuine vocation and naive idealism? And I thought that's a question for somebody who's like already like a wizened old person who's like had their entire life. But I guess for you guys, you've already had your first term at uni, and there might have been some things that was like, oh, I wasn't expecting that. I'm not sure this is what I wanted. I guess what you've already said, Lyla, was quite good advice for that. It's like actually just do your research really thoroughly.
Mhm.
Um, but is there any other way that you think people can know, like, oh, actually, this is the course for me? Um, that kind of helps you to come to a decision. Maybe Ash, I don't know if you have anything to add on this, because I feel like Lila's already talked about it quite a bit.
Yeah, I think that especially in terms of international relations, it's no one really knows what it actually is. Especially I did not research as much as Lyla did
Neither did I.
yeah, so international relations to me was kind of just I really like politics. I like the world. Let's just give it a go. And and now it's become my favorite bit of the course. So I think um just yeah, and if you don't research, just don't be put off by anything. Like, I think going into the application process and going into the first day of uni and then every lecture after, it's just really have an open mind and you never know what you'll actually find interesting. We had a lecture on devolution, which sounds like the most boring lecture ever, but it was actually one of the best lectures I've had in uni so far. It was so interesting, and yeah, and also even if you think you know something, you don't. Like, there's so much more to learn about it, and that's like it's both terrifying that I don't know so much about politics, but it's also so interesting. So yeah.
Yeah, basically just be open-minded. And I think that is really good advice, because at the end of the day, these courses are designed to be intellectually stimulating. And I think, certainly for me, there's been lots of things that I've learned. I've been like, I did not expect to find that so fun. Like for me, it's been logic. Like it's it's basically just doing maths. And like I enjoyed maths, but I was not expecting to find logic so fun. But actually, it's great. So I think, especially with courses like this, which are quite broad, and I think by the sounds of it, right now, like, they're quite customizable. And I know for you, Ash, later on gets more customizable. There's going to be so many things that you can engage with and be interested in it. It doesn't have to be like the perfect course for you. It could be a great course and not be perfect all the same. I think the kind of the perfectionist mindset may be a bit, I don't know. I think maybe Lyla, you had the perfectionist mindset, but for me, I'm like, there's going to be loads of good courses out there. I don't feel like I have to find the absolute best one. I know that there'll be 10 courses in the UK that I'll enjoy. Yeah,
Yeah.
cool. Have you guys got any other just more general pieces of wisdom for like year 12? And let's frame it this way: what would you be telling yourself in year 12 if you could give them some advice? Let's go Lyla first.
So a year in, if you ask me, or just like even a year and a half ago, are you going to go, like, are you going to apply to a London uni? I would have said absolutely not. I do not want to go and study in London whatsoever. I rejected the idea completely. And then I had a few people I knew go to London uni. And in September, October, I was like, wait, like, are you actually having fun? Because in my mind, it was just a place where fun goes to die and you don't get to go out at all and you just spend all your money. Um, so, and they were actually having so much fun. So I was like, you know what, I'll go for it. I applied, ended up applying to UCL and King's. And then I ended up at UCL. So just don't reject things just because of what you think about it. Go and actually see things for yourself. So it was actually going to London all the time, going to the open day for UCL. Those were the things that made me fall in love with London as a city and make me actually apply. So I would just tell myself, keep that open mind and just you'll find what's right for you. And then the other thing is, obviously I was quite stressy about my uni applications, as you can probably tell. But like, it's not the end of the world. You very rarely meet someone who's not like at least a slight bit happy about the uni and the course they chose. So, you've just got to do it. You'll meet your people no matter what, and you'll have a great time probably.
Yeah, I mean, worst comes to worst, you can change courses. Like I was chatting to
Exactly.
somebody just a few days ago who like started off at one uni and was like, this is not the course I signed up for, and changed in uni entirely, not even just changing courses. So like that is possible. Um,
Hmm.
so I think, yeah, maybe with the benefit of hindsight, all that research. But then again, maybe you wouldn't have ended up going to London and loving doing all your side quests and stuff if you
I
hadn't done all the
know,
research. So who
crazy.
knows? Who knows?
Also,
Yeah,
it is
Ash, that's
fun. We do things. So, like, we go out and socialize, I promise.
I have a life, I promise.
I promise.
Yeah. Great. Yeah, sorry. So Ash, any words of wisdom from you?
Yeah, I think university is a stepping stone. I remember getting my GCSE results and being pretty disappointed with them. And then somebody, like one of my teachers, telling me, "This is just a stepping stone to A levels. You can now do your A levels, which is just another stepping stone." And then again, getting my A level results, and this is everything is just a stepping stone to where you want to take your life. And I did not know what I wanted to do a year ago in terms of after uni, and I've changed my mind about 6 times since then. But I now have a pretty clear idea of at least something that I want to go into, and that wouldn't have been possible without just like doing everything I can like in uni and trying everything. I've really found my passion and what I love to do. And I think that that is whether you go to Bath or UCL or anywhere, I think that you just have to really connect with everything that's given to you. And everyone says to freshers, like, just say yes to everything. And whilst, you can say no to stuff, like, just trying everything possible, it's such a good way of just meeting people and also connecting with stuff that you might not have found interesting otherwise.
Yeah, that's great advice, I think. I mean, as you say, at some point you may have to say no and get some sleep, but it is definitely a good idea, especially with the course like it is at Bath and same with me at Oxford. Like the first year doesn't matter too much in terms
Yeah,
of your final grade. And so making the most of that slightly lower stakes academically to explore some new things maybe, and get involved with, well, setting up the Green Party branch in whatever your university might be or whatever it happens to be. Yeah, that's great advice. Cool. Um, so just final question. This just popped into my mind. I know what you're looking to do after uni, Ash, do the law stuff. Lyla, have you worked that out? Are you still working that out? Is UCL helping you work that out, or what's your situation?
What a great question. So UCL is actually quite helpful. They do have a lot of like careers advisors, and because we have quite a lot of guest speakers in, you can, talk to people about that. So I guess at the moment I'm just like shopping around, trying to like work out what I want. And then I'll give you a final answer.
Great, that's a good politician answer as well. Nice
Yeah,
one.
got
Yeah,
it
it's the
down.
all the politics is like seeping into you. That's great.
Yeah.
Perfect. I think that's all the questions I have for you guys. Thank you very much for coming on. I should just say, if you found this episode interesting, but want maybe a slightly different course, we've done an episode on politics, international relations with a language, so a little twist on this. So that's probably going to be on like the episode card thing that will come up at the end of the YouTube video, or if you're on Spotify or Apple or whatever, just look in the podcast feed and you'll find it. So yeah, if you want more of this, there is more where this came from. Yeah, thank you very much for listening. Thank you to my guests, Lyla and Ash, for coming on. It's good to talk to you guys. Yeah, goodbye from me. Cheers.